Assalamualaikum. Welcome back, everyone. We are still on our day one of the third ICSTEM 2021. I believe everybody is fresh from the break. So, let us all join Professor Dr. Mohan Chinapan, our first plenary speaker from University of South Australia, Australia. Professor Dr. Mohan will deliver a speech entitled Mathematics for STEM Education, Reframing the Nature of Content of Mathematics and Knowledge for Teaching Mathematics. Without further ado, please welcome Dr. Muhammad Ulul Ilmi as the moderator to begin the session. Please welcome. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Farah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good day, everybody. I would like to welcome again all of you to ICSTEM 2021, and we are now live in conference Webex, Facebook, and YouTube of official team. Now we have come to the first plenary talk for this conference, but before that, may I introduce myself. My name is Dr. Muhammad Ulul Ilmi from STEM Foundation Center, University of Malaysia, Terengganu, and today I will be chairing this first plenary talk. We feel honored and privileged to have our first plenary speaker this afternoon. He is here with us right now, live from Australia. I would like to welcome Prof. Dr. Mohan Chinapan to the ICSTEM 2021. How are you, Prof. Mohan?
Hello, good to be there. Good to be here. Virtually or not.
Okay, good to see you there. Okay, let me introduce a little bit about Prof. Mohan. Prof. Mohan received his PhD from the Flinders University of South Australia in 1993. He has numerous experiences in teaching since in the 1980s until now. Currently, he is a visiting professor in mathematics education in Seoul National University of Education, CMO Rexam, UPSI, and USM in Malaysia, and CMO Kitab in Mathematics, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Prof. Mohan to deliver his plenary talk entitled Mathematics for STEM Education, Reframing the Nature of Content of Mathematics and Knowledge for Teaching Mathematics. So the floor is yours, Prof.
All right, I think I'll start the sharing of the video, the PowerPoints now. Are my slides visible to you?
Your slide is already presenting, but it is in the summary slide.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'll start. Thank you, Dr. Ulul, and the organizing committee for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to deliver the plenary at the third ICSTEM organized by UTM. I've been to Malaysia several times, and I think I have some understanding of the STEM scene or scenery in Malaysia. Ulul told me I've got half an hour, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'll cut to the chase. A bit of background to myself. Even though I am a university professor, I started my life as a mathematics classroom teacher. So basically, I'm a practitioner who has become an academic. And they're both critical to my thinking and to the kind of ideas I've developed in the last 40 years as a teacher, classroom teacher, math educator, as well as a researcher in delving into STEM. I wouldn't pretend to be an expert in STEM because I'm really a mathematics teacher, and I bring my perspectives are very much from the angle of a math educator into STEM. Let me start by giving you a summary of what I'm going to do, so that the audience get a feel for what I'm going to talk about in the next half an hour or so. So the summary, I'm going to look at the context for STEM. Following that, I will provide some theoretical considerations, which are important in examining issues that impact on STEM education and STEM teaching more broadly. Within the theoretical constructs, there are two things I will draw on. First is called knowledge connectedness, and the second one is mathematical modeling. which are both critical, I'll argue, critical to STEM learning and STEM education more broadly. And then I will close the plenary with some sort of a speculation, if you like, into implications. A lot of research and a lot of things we do are speculative until they're proven otherwise. So I'll finish up some implications, and then I'll have a chance for the audience to raise some questions, and I'll attempt to respond to your questions. So feel free to stop me anytime if there's something I've said, if I'm going too fast, to engage. At the end of the day, what is important to me is if I can get half the message to you, I'm more than happy as a speaker. The worst thing is you leave the place with the audience not knowing what I was talking about. So I'll move on to the next slides. The context. The context is STEM education. STEM education is now the hot potato all over the world, especially in the last 5 or 10 years. A lot of focus has come into STEM, both from academics, politicians, and policymakers. And there's a need for it. I think it is bringing together a lot of issues together in terms of where we're heading. So what are some of the key, if you like, focus areas of STEM? What is STEM really about? So I put together a few things. STEM is about trying to developing skills for employability in the current labor demand. By that I mean high-level skills. Both your Minister for Technology recently commented that Malaysia requires highly skilled personnel because your labor force is a great proportion of your labor force is semi-skilled or unskilled. In order for the economy to develop further into the next level, you need high-level skills, and STEM is providing an important direction in that regard. People who are talking about STEM are also talking about the development of critical skills, critical thinking rather, because what has happened in the past is when we are focused on a particular discipline like maths or science or physics or so on, we tend to slide, or if you like, sidestep the critical thinking aspects of personal development, and STEM is bringing that to the focus. And soft skills, and this is what we'll talk about. Soft skills about communication skills, how to work in groups, how to solve problems in groups, how to communicate. And this bit of personality is important in developing soft skills, and a lot of soft skills are very important, and STEM brings that together. Creativity and divergent thinking. Yes, we want young people to think outside the box. And this idea of giving a problem, finding a solution is not a way to promote divergent thinking and creative flair. And STEM provides a nice platform to develop that kind of thinking. New ideas. We are moving fast. We are fast moving from repeating, regurgitating what has been done before into creating new technologies and new ideas. And this can emerge from STEM-based education. Transforming society with innovation, sustainable solutions. This is a big theme these days. And we're dealing with ever-changing environmental issues, technological issues, pedagogical issues, social issues. So we want solutions for this sort of complex problems. And there are sustainable issues too, so it comes in there. And I think I'm alluding to go back to what I said before. And all of this contributing to a knowledge-based economy. And Malaysia is really gearing itself to a society where you're going to create new ideas, new technologies, and new ways of looking at things. And that gives me a kind of a context for STEM education. There could be other things that this is what I think STEM is trying to promote in the classroom and more broadly in society. So let me now go into that is STEM education, STEM learning. So what is learning as opposed to education? Education is more a broad-based concept. I want to kind of drill down into the particular aspects of learning. So STEM learning, what is STEM learning? You've got to understand and solve real life world problems. Real life problems, and that's part of learning. So you want to contextualize learning, but anchor those learning in real world problems. Teamwork is important because in STEM, we're not dealing with closed problems. We are more interested in open-ended problems, and that is where teamwork comes in and different people bring the perspective. This is critical, the integration of discrete disciplines. And the disciplines are, as you know, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They are the discrete disciplines, and we want them to integrate in tackling by posing and solving problems. Now, so whatever integration we bring in, integration is the key, the blending or bringing together, whatever term you want to call it. The key to me, from a theoretical perspective, is knowledge connectedness. Two words, knowledge and connectedness. And my colleagues and I have been working on this for now almost 30 years. And we have found that, at least within the domain of mathematics, or discipline of mathematics, persons or learners with connected knowledge can do a lot more with that knowledge than those who develop knowledge that are discrete, bits and pieces floating out there. They're not connected. Now, connectedness is a very slippery term. Right? It seems simple, but it is not that simple. There are more theoretical areas built on connectedness, but I'll stick to the word connectedness and talk a bit more about it in the context of some examples. Then the audience will make sense of what do I mean by connectedness. From the connectedness argument, I will then lead you into the modeling aspect, where modeling is at the core, critical aspect of STEM learning. So the two theoretical things, knowledge connectedness and mathematical modeling. They're the ones I'll be talking a lot about as I go through these examples. So what is knowledge connectedness? Why is it significant? The significance of knowledge connectedness is transfer. By transfer, I'm not talking about a teacher being transferred from Terengganu to Selangor transfer. Here I'm talking about knowledge transfer, right? When we learn something, we need to apply that knowledge. When the knowledge is connected, it's easier for us to transfer that knowledge to different contexts. And this transfer is a theoretical construct. If you like, I'm happy for you to read a bit more about what do I mean by transfer. It's a theoretical construct, by the way. And there are two types of transfer. Near transfer is one thing. A near transfer is a successful use of knowledge, given knowledge, to solve similar or isomorphic problems. So you give them a problem, kids can solve a similar problems with a different number, right? As opposed to far transfer. Far transfer is when you take that ideas from a new concepts, procedures, principles from the new transfer, you then do apply that knowledge to solve more complex problem. I'm just thinking about, if you are a motor mechanic, you learn something about how the diesel engine works or petrol engine works. There's some standard things you learn from new transfer. You then have to now, someone comes along to a motor mechanic shop. You learned about this motor mechanic with a Mazda car, for example. Someone comes to your yard and he brings a Toyota. Although they are both petrol engines, but Toyota has got different engine. You have to apply some of the principles you gain from the near transfer in your Mazda context to diagnosing and solving engine problem in Toyota. And that requires far transfer. It's possible that I'm just using Toyota engine as an example. Toyota engine may have different configuration. There could be different tubes coming out there. I'm not a specialist in the area. I'm just trying to bring in how these connections happen. Another case of a near transfer, you learn to play music. So you've got a scoreboard out there, you're trying to play piano. Let's say you're playing Mozart's music, classical music. Or you're playing some music from P.M. Ramlee, who all Malaysian composers are. Then you're given another piece of music. which is completely unrelated to what you were learning before. You have to transfer and play the different music. That is part transfer. You may have to play that music not from piano. You're going to use harmonium or some other instrument, and that is part transfer. Some examples. When you model real-world problems, keyword I'm using, we are actually doing file transfer, and that is critical. So in STEM learning, STEM education, file transfer is very, very crucial, and that's my point. But let's look at some simple maths problems about near and file transfer. Here examples. Here are 3 triangles. So a teacher in say Form 3 or Form 4 teaches this. I've just come back from a classroom. I teach maths once a week. I go to schools to teach maths. I get out of my professorial office, go to the classroom, teach maths, engage with the children, engage with the students. I know what is happening. So here's an example. The teacher's teaching the idea of tangent. Tangent, you know about tangent. Those who done Form 4 maths, you know what tangent. Tangent is basically you find you use the word rise over run. You divide the rise by the run. So you're using right angle triangles, 3 right angles trying to show the idea of tangent. That is the rise divided by the run. The rise divided by the run. Tangent is this angle over here. We call them opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. Opposite over. So the teacher is teaching idea of tangent, or more critically, in the case of these triangles, idea of slope, S-L-O-P-E, slope, right? Now the teacher might have used the word gradient or may not, but generally this is what's happening in the teaching of the idea of a slope. Now, then what the teacher can do for near transfer, give different triangles, different orientation of triangles, ask them to find the slope, all right? Now, that is what we call near transfer. Different triangles trying to find the slope or find the tangent of that slope, of the angle, which is the slope, or the gradient. The word gradient may have been used, I don't know, let's say. Now, so going from this to a similar triangles with the different numbers, it is near transfer. Okay. Now, what is far transfer? The far transfer in this context is a bit like this. All right. A kid in the class and comes and says, hang on, a 20% slope is steeper than a 10% slope. To me, this is far transfer because he or she is bringing different ideas for a start. It's idea of percentage. All right. It is still using the idea of rise over run, but is applying that in terms of a percentage notion. The teacher just talked about tangent. That's all. The kid understood what is slope, rise over run, convert that into a percentage, and then you might even go on and show why 20% is bigger than a 10%. And if you're driving a car going down the slope, very often they are warning signs. They would have seen out there when you're driving with the parents. They tell you you're dropping, how fast you're dropping, or how high you're going. So there, that kind of idea of going from the near to the far transfer. So you can see a bit of modeling happening and a bit of the far transfer happening. In a very, it could be, this could have been a Form 3 or a Form 4, doesn't matter. I thought I'd pick up an example to show you an example within mathematics where you go near transfer to far transfer. The near transfer does involve concepts. There's still some linking going on in the near transfer, all right? But the far transfer, you take it to a new context, bring new ideas to embellish the notion of what is a grade and what's a slope. So my central argument is, this is my central argument in this presentation. Knowledge transfer is key to effective STEM learning. In STEM learning, integration is key. You've got discrete disciplines, science, maths, and so on. All right. If you want to bring them together, you need to transfer knowledge. And particularly, the far transfer is really the fundamental aspect of learning within STEM. Let me keep going next point on this. So I'm going to look at some examples. I'm also aware of the time, so it's 4:21. So here, I just mentioned this. So STEM education, transfer knowledge, especially far transfer, is played out most spectacularly during modeling. Now, what is modeling? This word modeling has been used. Now, I'm going to use mathematical modeling because I come from a maths background. So we're going to look at how mathematics is used to model problems. It is a process, keyword process, of analyzing real-life problems using mathematical methods. In the audience, I'm sure there are some mathematicians out there. There are many aspects to mathematical methods. And whatever methods we use, you're really trying to use those methods to analyze and capture real-life problems. So let's look at some examples of it. Why is this significant modeling? It highlights integration. It provides integration in a meaningful manner, real-life problems, increasing motivation. Children are highly motivated when they work in groups, as opposed to sitting down and solving problems mathematically, get bored. So STEM really brings the modeling aspects more fruitful. So COVID-19 is a big issue these days, and there's a lot of mathematical modeling in infectious diseases. Here's a graph I pulled out from one of the newspapers. So here is I won't go into the detail, but suffice to say, in this graph, and it shows about this is the ratio between the number of confirmed cases and confirmed death in a country as of March 16. I pulled this out from one of the, probably a BBC website or somewhere. What it does is models. Modeling is important. How do they predict? What modeling does, it captures the variables and the interplay between the variables, and then helps the investigator predict what is to come. And the COVID situation, just about everyone talks about modeling. The beautiful thing about modeling is contestable. Not every model is the same. One group comes to one model, another group can challenge them. I'll give an example of this. In Australia today, we are grappling, like Malaysia and other countries in the world, when to open up the board, stop the lockdown, let people move freely. And there's so many variables being played out. So we have a center for excellence in infectious disease and immunology, based at the University of Melbourne. It is called the Doherty Center. Now, named after Peter Doherty, Doherty. Peter Doherty is a Nobel Prize winner from Australia in immunology, and said that. About 2 weeks ago, my government in Canberra is using Doherty as an authority in predicting or in forecasting when to open up the borders between the states, when to let the people move around. They're going back to the Doherty Institute advised them. Now, so Doherty says, okay, if you vaccinate 80% of the people, fully vaccinated, which means double dose of vaccination, then the border between the states could be opened. Then what happened? There are some tension between the states. Queensland and New South Wales, for example, don't accept the Doherty modeling. They're using some other modeling from another state, University of Queensland, for example. Now, what it shows is, you got the best authority in the world doing the modeling with mathematics and so on, but it is contestable. Okay? What they're saying is the Doherty model does not consider the unvaccinated young ones from 12 to 18 years old. They're only considering 80% vaccination for adults, which is above 8. So you can see some variables in there they're using to model. So modeling is very, very powerful, and I think it's very current these days to look at that. Ulul, how am I going for time? 5 more minutes?
Twenty-five
There,
minutes. 25 minutes before Q&A.
Another 5 minutes?
We are going to have Q&A at 2:50.
So how much time have I got? Another 5 or 10 minutes?
25 minutes, Prof.
5 minutes, okay. So then I want to, so I'll probably go. Now, next, I'll just quickly take you through another modeling of natural disaster. Now, this happened in Australia, in Sydney. Now, I wouldn't let you read. I'll just show you what's happening, so because I'm running out of time. Now, what is happening? I'll show you this map over here. This is a big dam. This is Sydney City. This is a big dam. There's about, I think, about 100 k's west of Sydney. This dam is called Warragamba Dam, Aboriginal name. This dam captures water and releases water. Now, in February this year, there was a huge amount of rain, and there was a problem because what's happening, you can see that from the map. The water goes from the dam, goes down this way. The river is there. I can't clear. It goes this way. It goes through Penrith and goes to this way to Richmond, Winster, these are towns, the suburbs, and flows out that way. You can't see the rest of it. The problem was there was so much water coming into the dam, they had to control how much water to keep in the dam and how much water to release. So what has happened? Because there was some trouble, a lot more water was, because a lot more water was coming into the dam, they had to release a lot more water into the river. As a result, the whole place was flooded. People were getting flooded in Penrith, Richmond, Winster were flooded. Big issue. So there was a tension between how to model the inflow, water coming into the dam, and how much to release from the dam. Right? So here you can see a very complex problem about within the Water Corporation of Sydney. I'm sure engineers and the statisticians would have said and worked out how to control the inflow into the dam so that the dam doesn't burst. All right? At the same time, release the water in such a way the flow into the suburbs doesn't cause flooding. In the case of powerful use of mathematics to model complex problems. So this is the problem we're talking about, modeling that involves teamwork, complex problem, real life, sustainability, okay, working in groups, talking about reasonable solution, arguing among team members, what is the right solution for real problem, and different possible scenarios being played out in this. So there's an example of modeling played out. And it's all fire transfer. Now, given that I got maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to jump into my other slide just to, yeah?
You can have another 10 minutes more, it's okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go through, that's fine. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to go back to one more slide. Now, here in the case of modeling, use of quadratics, the case of parabola. Now, I go to schools. Today I was teaching in a year 10 class, advanced maths class, parabola. Now, parabola is a very, very powerful way to model a lot of things. And those, again, this is the use of parabola. You see parabola is a trajectory of football when you kick it. There's parabola in the reflectors in a car headlight. This is all parabola. The reflector is a parabola. So study of a parabola is such a powerful way to bring the modeling aspect very, very strongly to the children. Of course, when you study parabola, you study about the equation of parabola. All right? You look at how to find the turning points. You draw a graph of a parabola. When is the parabola is wider? When the graph is narrow? And here's the example of use of parabola in the case of a golf. This is fire transfer because I told my students what the equation is. I told them that y is equal to x squared, or y is equal to x squared plus 1 whole thing squared, or y is equal to x squared plus 1. You can graph all of that. But now you've got to apply that into this context. So they've got to model the flight path of a golf ball. I picked up golf because I love golf. I play golf. And to get the idea of how to graph this and how to use quadratics, particularly parabolic path of a ball, and to solve some problems. Now, I gave this to a group work. I didn't want them to do it individually. It's a simple problem, and yet it involves a fire transfer. Okay, there's another example of a fire transfer I'm passionate about. So I'm going to basically, I've got a few things in there, I want to do that now. Right, so I talked about, this is really basically what I talked about. STEM education or STEM learning is involved integration and blending. Very important to have knowledge connected within mathematics. So the key points of our knowledge transfer is crucial. We teach for knowledge transfer. You've got to connect knowledge within the subjects. So if you're teaching maths, make sure this is done first before you can talk about across, because in STEM, the focus is across discipline. All right. So I've used a number of examples to show within mathematics. And then, of course, once you've covered that area, we can go into between subjects. This is where your STEM comes out a bit more forcefully. My example out there would have given you an idea of between subjects. So if you're teaching that parabola, that topic on parabola can be taught in physics class. And you draw graphs, so graphs are coming in there as well. And more mathematical modeling is really a beautiful way to bring about both the within subject connectivity or connectedness as well as between subject. Now, this is now pedagogy, some of the implications for practical implications, suppose the theoretical implications. Of course, I think this is, most people are familiar with that. STEM pedagogy involves inquiry-based learning. It's not a case of teachers sitting there talking with a chalk and talk approach. It is inquiry and problem-based learning. That's important. Group problem solving it is at the core of STEM pedagogy. Generally, it's done through projects. We all know that. So that's what I would like to see. Now, this is something I was promoting when I was in Wrexham some years ago. They invited me to go there and give a talk on this. And one of the things I told them was, since STEM is about integrating knowledge from different institutions, why don't you bring in the experts in each of the disciplines into the classroom, into the maths classroom, bring some engineers, give them the problems, the projects, bring in the engineers, or give a broad problem, get the engineers to come into the classroom and comment on a problem. What is the engineer's perspective on a problem? Likewise, bring some nurses into the classroom. Very applied knowledge. Nurses are very good in teaching ratio because they got to inject what called medicine in a particular parts per million. They will tell you what is parts per million in terms of diluting the solution they use. Bringing the nurses into the classroom, bringing the mathematicians. I'm not talking about maths teachers, university people who are mathematicians and statisticians to into the classroom. All right? Chemists, go to the pharmacy, bring a chemist to the class. How do they talk about molar? What is a mole? A molar solution. Yeah? Bring the diesel engine experts. They got a lot to offer. Diesel engine expert, their understanding of science and math is so grounded. They will bring a lot of rich experience for the students. Yeah? It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen all the time. But in your STEM classroom, whatever you do it, you can organize one or more people. Bring the carpenters. Carpenters talk about geometry, how they use geometry to construct a truss on a roof. Why a particular truss has got more strength than the other types of trusses? Your compound houses, the architecture there is built on certain design. You find that there's always a tension between the architect and the builder. The builder has got practical knowledge of how to build that compound house, whereas the architect has got a theoretical knowledge. I've built houses where the builder often disagrees with the architect, but the architect's drawings are critical to get the approval from the council, the Majlis Perbandaran, who approve the building, right? So the architect's drawings are critical theoretically. But when you build a house on the ground, the builder or the carpenter comes and gives you a different perspective. So I think in your STEM teaching, you can bring some of these experts into the class, very in terms of practical. This is my last slide on challenges. STEM is an emerging discipline. It's a new discipline. In fact, I'll be careful. I use the word discipline. I mean, maths is a discipline, science is a discipline. To call STEM as a discipline is kind of loose. It is an emerging and evolving discipline. A lot of people have jumped into STEM for different reasons. Either my colleagues who are math educators overnight have become STEM specialists. Science educators overnight have become STEM professors. This is a difficult area. It is not clear cut what STEM is. And so I think we have to be careful. You're organizing a STEM conference, obviously. You have to be careful about what STEM is. So because STEM is a kind of a new area, as a subject, it is not clearly delineated. In your curriculum, school curriculum, what is STEM subject? Is there a STEM subject? The Malaysian curriculum, Form 4 curriculum, or SPM curriculum? Is there a STEM subject? Or is it simply done on the side after the people have learned the maths and things? So that is a challenge that we have to draw clear boundaries. Now, so the role of STEM within mainstream curriculum is not clear. Teachers, I know, telling me, go to school all the time. STEM is okay, Mohan. What is it? How does it fit in with the mainstream curriculum? How do we assess it? Okay, so assessment is the issue. Because it's very much a project-based activity, the assessment is very complex. You've got to test for critical skills, you're testing for soft skills, right? Are you looking for open-ended problems? And how do you assess this? Support professional development for teachers. Again, we are already struggling to support maths and science teachers. Now we've got PD for STEM teachers. And how do you actually identify among the group of teachers in the school or from the education ministry, Ministry of Education and Department of Education, who are the experts to support STEM? Because my gut feeling is there are no STEM experts out there. I really think so. People who are claiming to be STEM, they come from a particular discipline, and I don't pretend it. I'm not a STEM expert. But all I can say in this presentation is to come together. Let's explore this new area. And my last point is resources. What sort of resources do we have? I mentioned bring the experts into the classroom. How much money can the school provide to the teachers? How much time it requires to organize a visit by a chemist to your classroom? Teachers need support. Malaysian classrooms are already big. Running a normal curriculum is bad enough. So we're talking about STEM. So there are some of these challenges. So people who are championing STEM education, I think we got to look at resources and implications very carefully. And that is the end of my presentation. And thank you for listening to me. I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mohan, for that very interesting speech. And I believe we would like to celebrate some of the questions in the chat room so far. So we have several. So I go for the first question from Benny Lau. Hi, Prof. I would like to hear some advices from you about how do we rationalize or even motivate our students in learning mathematics concept that look abstractive to them. So because we could see that many students or even graduates, they might have the conception that they won't be used or even apply those in their future career.
Thank you for that question, Bulul. Look, I may have addressed this somehow in a fleeting manner in the presentation. Yes, mathematics is still kind of seen to be an abstract, lonely subject. You sit down and you do maths, and so we really have to excite students wanting to do mathematics. Within mathematics, we need to bring out the real life applications of maths. So modeling is one way. And I'll give you an example, several examples in my presentation. That natural disaster, that infectious disease. Important to link our concepts to where they applied. So if you're talking about, let's say, you're teaching about probability. Probability is the concept. Why don't you link probability to ecology? Because kids do subject on ecosystem ecology in biology lessons. They can link. You can link because a lot of predictions in population control, understanding populations in the ecosystem involves setting up equations. But there's always a chance it could be going wrong, right? So ideal probability can be included, played out, say what you want, given more meaning in the context of study of ecosystem. So I go back to what I said before. Real life problems, modeling. Show them where the maths is coming through. And that's critical. Otherwise, math becomes an abstract subject and we struggle with that. And this is my point about the connectedness of knowledge, integration of knowledge. Knowledge should be presented or activated or used in an applied context. That is not to say we don't build basic blocks. Basic blocks of mathematics are important. But the next thing is the file transfer. So look for modeling and the file transfer opportunities to bring the concept alive. And that's where kids become excited about maths. And STEM is a wonderful platform and context to do that.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Another question from Lo Yun Mi. Connect math into the real world should set up in the curriculum. Is Australia done this part?
In Australia today, a lot of maths, the new curriculum, the Australian new national curriculum, is very much moving towards the what you call anchored learning, right? Real life based learning. We do have a section. If you have a chance, I'm happy for you to do for the Aussie curriculum. We are moving away from teaching abstract maths into applied maths. When I say applied maths, we are also talking about culture, socio-cultural aspects of the history of mathematical development. We have in Australia Aboriginal people, the natives of this country. Okay, so there's a lot of emphasis now on trying to understand Aboriginal mathematics or bringing Aboriginal mathematics into the normal teaching and learning activity. We are fostering this, what do you call Asia contribution of Asia to mathematics. So when we teach about geometry, for example, I do this, all right? On a chessboard, an 8x8 square chessboard is a beautiful place to bring geometry. But chess was invented in India. So we want to bring in that cultural contribution of chess. Chess is a very, very abstract game. You can teach a lot of things through chess, not just geometry, movements, algebra, and so on. The coordinate system. A lot of chess notations use the coordinate system to tell how moves are, and patterns within the chessboard. The point I'm making is we are moving towards acknowledging that different cultures contributed to what we call the mainstream. And that is one way of going to enthuse, validate, and the different contributions of culture from, I mean, when I was in Malaysia, one of the things I learned from being there is in Terengganu or in Kelantan, they talk about groups in different terms. I forget the terms. A 10 cents got a different name. Groups of 10. Excuse me. I think it's the Kelantanese way of visualizing grouping. So the point I'm making, yeah. So our curriculum is moving more towards helping kids anchor the maths, apply the maths, acknowledge the cultural contributions of mathematics.
Okay. So, Prof, the next question, I believe this comes from a school teacher, Encik Ahmad Basri Ruslan. It's a little bit long. Okay, Prof, I have a student who is 13 years old. He is very bright. He can answer additional mathematics that 4 years advanced from his normal age. He can go beyond and even faster into university. But due to our curriculum system that only allows students to sit for our SPM, which is Malaysia Examination Certificate, at the age of 16 at least, it limited their ability to go beyond. So from your point of view, how can I construct a curriculum for him in this pandemic area since we can't conduct a face-to-face learning session?
Right. Thank you for the question. I think it's a very interesting question. We have what we call, one of the things we're doing in Australia, particularly in New South Wales, and to some degree in South Australia. We're setting up what we call special achievement schools, or within schools, special achievement classes, where we take these students who are way ahead of the class, put them into enrichment classes, and they are given more support, and we bring in university lecturers and professors to this particular classroom to get them on this trajectory of very fast learning. Remember, every society needs to learn mathematics at different levels. We need carpenters, we need plumbers, we need lorry drivers. Okay? They use mathematics for sure. We also need, at the other end, if you like, high apex mathematics. We need people to design bridges, right? You need experts to design fuel cells down the track. We need experts to predict cancer growth, cancer tumor, the growth of cancer tumor, right? So we need to provide a wide spectrum of learning opportunity for people at different levels. So your case of additional maths even at the top end, it's not really challenging this particular student you're talking about. What we're doing in Australia is we're having a special classroom, maths classroom within school, as well as schools that set up to support these fast, the people who are really sprinting, if you like, with the mathematics, because we don't want to hold them back. We need them. Society needs them. And that is the strategy. So what we do, the people who teach those advanced classes are really highly experienced maths teachers, one. Two, university lecturers coming in from the mathematics department to challenge these students.
Okay, so thank you. We go to the next question by Anutra Sirisena. I wonder how students in Australia embrace and accept mathematics. Our students fear math, and this plays a crucial factor in students pursuing STEM packages. How students in Australia embrace and accept mathematics?
So sorry, Ulul, I missed that. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, I wonder how students in Australia embrace and accept mathematics. Our students fear math, and this plays a crucial factor in students pursuing STEM packages.
Right. In Australia, we are still finding a significant proportion of students are not engaging with mathematics. We have an engagement question, right? What we are doing is our curriculum reflects that. We really want to engage students at different levels. So the approach has been to really embed the concepts in real life context. And that is what we're learning. A lot of people who talk about constructivist learning will understand what I mean by that. Constructivism, where the kids engage in learning, they create their own understandings, own ways of solving problems. So this anchored or embedded learning is really an important arm of policy in our curriculum, and we are doing that both in the teacher education courses in the university, as well as in the classroom, where kids are engaged with a range of real-life problems, where applications are fostered, and also the assessment. Project-oriented learning is big. In fact, in our centralized exam, like SPM, for example, we go our SPM, we are giving about 25% of the marks for those big exams for projects. So there's now more formal acknowledgement that project-based learning is very, very important. So if you look into the South Australian certificate, SACE, South Australian Certificate Education, you find that there's a big component just on project. So when they do a project, they have to formulate questions. They got to show us how they got the solutions. They have to argue. It's basically a problem-solving activity where they have to narrate, communicate to the examiner what they did. It's an open-ended activity, but it's assessed quite tightly. And so even in a formal final exam, standardized exam, we are encouraging project-oriented work as well as acknowledgement in terms of giving marks.
Okay, Prof, this is more like a statement, but she or he seeks for your agreement. Brilliant in math not means the student can handle other subjects in SPM. Brilliant in math does not mean the student can handle other subjects in SPM. Agree?
Not necessarily. When you relate concept within mathematics, you are learning a skill of integration within mathematics. So that skill, what I call metacognition, which is a skill that you learn across discipline. So whatever you do in mathematics, in maths you solve problems, you integrate concept. Those skills can be transferred to the other context. So if you're doing physics, for example, all right. So for example, one of the things you do in maths is when you solve a problem, you can't get a solution. You try a different approach. All right. You try a different approach. So what you're learning? You're learning is you got to try again, reformulate the problem. Again, reformulate the problem. That is a skill you learn in maths. Now that skill can be applied in chemistry classroom, physics classroom, in other classroom. So this is kind of a transfer of what I call a metacognitive or generalized skills. So I don't quite agree with that position, that whatever you learn in maths is stuck in there, can be used somewhere. Maths is more than any other subject. It provides a lot of generalizable skills.
Okay, thank you. And I believe this is the last question from Umi Mansoor. Question regarding the enrichment classes for the advanced students who are able to go beyond. Will they stay in the advanced group until the end of the year, or will there be instances where students get demoted back normal group?
So these enrichment classes, they sit in a normal classroom, like a normal classroom. Then what they do, they are given two slots in a week to go and sit in the other classroom, which is a enrichment classroom, right? In that classroom, you may have kids from different grades coming together. They're not all from the same grade coming together. The enrichment classes are for other kids come together. In some schools, they do them within the normal timetable, school timetable. In other schools, they do it after school. And this is a way to manage. And teachers are supported. They're given extra pay or they're given extra time to do those things. So what we're doing is we want to run the normal curriculum. They go to do the normal exams like everyone else. In addition to that, they do this extra enrichment activity. Right? This is to push them to go to the next level, take them to the next level wherever they're at. And that is part of the kind of broad-based curriculum and education that we provide in Australia. And the government is really, really concerned about slowing down these high achievers.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Mohan. Thank you so much again from such an illuminating speech and also responses to the questions given. Okay, we will definitely benefit from your sharing. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to Prof. Dr. Mohan Chinapan. So with that, I would like to close this plenary talk with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and see you again, Prof. And please
Thank
remain
you.
in the session right now because we are going to have a photo session. And for that, back to you, Farah.
So
Thank you
sign?
to Professor, sorry. Thank
Go
you to
on.
Professor Dr. Mohan and Muhammad Ulul Ilmi for a wonderful session. With Professor Dr. Mohan with us today, let us all cherish the moment by taking photos together. So all guests, you are invited to switch on your camera for a photography session. In count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. With that, we have ended with our first plenary speaker session for 3rd ICSTEM 2021. To continue to our parallel session, oral presenters are welcome to enter your respective rooms for your presentations. For attendees, you are welcome to any room according to the selected themes to watch the presentations, and also to the ICSTEM website to view all the posters available there. With that, I wish all the presenters good luck and happy conferencing to all the attendees as well.